G'day guys, this is Cal, and I'm going to talk to you about MIDI stacks on the Quartz V2. So, best way to do that is to show you the software for the Quartz. Now I'll go straight to MIDI management, which is where you edit your MIDI stacks. And here they are. MIDI stacks are on this side. The Quartz has 128 MIDI stacks, and a MIDI stack is a collection of 10 MIDI messages, and these messages can be any message you like. These messages are sent out in order, so first, second, third, so forth. If they're set to control 000, then the message is empty. The name actually doesn't matter, so this will not send out any messages at all. If I set this to a channel, that would actually send out a CC message on channel 1 and message 0, value 0. So, and then setting this up to 101 or something and 127, this might do some particular thing on one particular pedal. Or you could set it to do it on a few pedals if they're all set to the same channel. So each message will do something different. You could actually send the same message out multiple times, but that is pretty pointless. So basically you can do 10 different things, and then you can send them all out at once as a MIDI stack. And you can name the MIDI stack. You can reset individual messages nice and quickly. You can reset the whole stack. And like I showed you, you can name individual messages. So you could just, if you knew what you were doing, you could just use this side and just edit the MIDI stacks. But you might not remember what this message does. It's not very explanatory. You'd have to look up in the manual what this message would do for the certain pedal that is on channel 3. So, and that's where the library comes in handy. You can have a list of messages here that are predefined messages that you just add into the MIDI stack. For the timeline, for example, there's lots of things you can do with the MIDI on the timeline. So we've made a little library file that you can download. So head over to our website and go to the Quartz support page. Go to resources, and then there's a few here that you can download that we've done. Some aren't complete. They're just sort of there to get you started because you can create your own libraries. So download the timeline one, and it's just a text file. Once you've downloaded, go open session and select the timeline. And now that's only loaded in the library. It hasn't affected anything else because that file only contained library data. So you can also delete this empty thing here. And if you wanted to load in another one, you can. So you could go open session and load in the Empress reverb. And now that's added to the bottom here too. You can reorder by pressing these up here too, so you can find messages quickly. This information was just retrieved from the Timelines manual, so anyone can create these libraries themselves if your pedal isn't on our website. Say for this MIDI stack, I want to go to bank 10. I would select where I want to add it, so press that button, or you can select along here, just as long as that row is selected. And then, what did I say? Bank 10. And then press the add button there. And that's going to now, when I recall this MIDI stack, it's going to set my timeline to bank 10. But you also might want to turn the timeline on when you do that. So you go find the engage message, and there it is there. So select the message, select add from here, and now that's going to happen in order. First, it's going to go to bank 10, and then it's going to engage the timeline. Now this is exactly the same as doing this. And if I delete that, that'll do the same thing because these messages are all 0. This will still just send out 2 messages. And then you could also set your reverb down here to engage the plate reverb or something, whatever you want. You can also rename these again. So now I would call this MIDI stack timeline 10 and plate verb, something like that. It's up to you, but that's just so that later on you can assign this MIDI stack somewhere, which I'll show you soon. Another thing to note is that, see how I've added these messages and they're all on channel 1. Make sure you change the channel, because these will always add on channel 1. Whereas in real life, your timeline would be on a different channel to your reverb. So you would set that to 2 probably, or whatever your pedals are set to on the actual pedal. So now that I've made this library here of the Empress and the on the timeline, I can save the library as just a library, so I can recall it again, and it will recall both of these at the same time, and so I don't have to load in singular sessions all the time. And you can reset the library, and you can add a new library message yourself, which it adds to the end. So, and then once you've added that in, you just look up what the message is on the in the manual of your pedal. So this can be anything you like. And now when I add that there, it's added it in. So say we've made a really cool combination of sounds here in this MIDI stack. A good way to see what the MIDI stack is actually going to do in real life is to keep your, when you're editing your Quartz, keep the pedal on the pedal board and keep it plugged into your other MIDI pedals. And that way you can press this preview MIDI stack. It will tell the Quartz to send out this MIDI stack, just so you can see the effects of it. You don't have to set it to a preset or anything just yet. You can just make sure that everything is as you've set it here. Obviously, you have to connect to the pedal first and all of that. So once you've got a good combination of messages here doing whatever you want, it actually won't do anything with the pedal because you haven't assigned it anywhere yet. It will have been assigned automatically, but I'll show you how to actually assign it. So we've called this one time 10 plate verb. There's a few ways you can send out a MIDI stack, and that's through the presets and through a repeating MIDI stack and through your foot switches. So I'll show you how to assign it to a song. So you go to the songs page, and by default it's 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3. So this stack that we were editing was MIDI stack 2. But notice it's now changed its name to what we said it was. So when this song is recalled, so we call it Songy 2. When Songy 2 is recalled, it will send out that MIDI stack that we sent, and so on and so forth. We could set all of these presets to be the same stack if we wanted, but that would be kind of useless. So if this was set to MIDI stack 1 and these were back to default, if I reset MIDI stacks and set this to MIDI stack 1, notice now that that MIDI stack isn't assigned to any songs, which means that basically it's going to sit there and do nothing until you've assigned it somewhere, unless you have it set in your global settings. So another way to send out a MIDI stack is with this repeating MIDI stack. So I could select this time 10 plate verb stack, set how many times I want it to send out, and set the division. And now the repeating MIDI stack is it'll just be sent out in time to the tempo. So if it's set to quarter, it'll send out 6. It'll be sent out 6 times every quarter note, and that will happen when you change presets or tap in a new tempo. And this is great for certain things, like I'll show you. If I make a new MIDI stack, tap timeline, and I go find the tap message. That's the tap foot switch, as in Footswitch C. So that's not what we want. We want this one here, which is a tap tempo message. So you select it and add that there, and set it to whatever channel your timeline's on. Now, when I go to, when I send this stack out, it'll be just like I'm tapping in on the timeline, on the actual foot switch. It'll mimic it. So if I was to press this preview stack repeatedly, it would actually be tapping in a tempo on my timeline, and only on my timeline. So since MIDI clock is global, then that means that when the MIDI clock is being sent out, all of your pedals that are listening to MIDI clock or capable of it will be set to the same tempo. And sometimes you might only want to set the time for one pedal. And for the timeline, you could do that. That means that when this is being sent out, it'll be setting the time for the timeline only, and no other pedal will be affected. So to make sure that that is being sent, go back to global settings and go to tap timeline, set it to quarter notes most likely, or you could set it to a different division. Probably 6 pulses is fine, but you can set it infinitely as well. So that's another way to send out a MIDI stack. And the third way is with your foot switches. Notice by default, they're all disabled. If I was to select it here, now when I'm on this preset, it will be sending out this MIDI stack when I tap the onboard foot switch. So that would be just like tapping in time on the timeline, but you're using the Quartz foot switch instead. But I'll explain what this page is later on. But basically, remember that a MIDI stack will not be sent out by itself. It has to be assigned somewhere, either to a song, to the repeating MIDI stack, or to the Footswitch MIDIs page. Now, with certain types of messages, the number of bytes that are sent is different. A program change message only requires 2 bytes. So if you notice, I'll add in a bank change here. Select that and add in a bank change. Notice it's only the channel and the value. This message needs to remain at 0. Oh, well, actually it doesn't. It just won't be sent out. So if you want to set the timeline to preset 20, you would put it in the value here. And there's other messages that only require 2 bytes as well. And so in that case, just ignore the message byte in the middle. You can also send out single bytes. And to do that, you keep, I can't talk. You keep the control as control, the type as control. You keep the channel as 0, message as 0, and you just change this value. So for example, you can send out a MIDI clock start message. A MIDI clock start message is actually hex FA. And to figure out what that is in decimal, you can grab a little calculator, go to programmer, and type in, go to hex. So it's FA. And if you look at the decimal, that is 250. So I can put 250 here, and that would be MIDI clock start. And you can also do a stop message, which is FC, I think it is. And that would be 252. There's looper pedals that receive a start message, and it will start a loop, for example, or stop a loop. You can actually send out sysx messages as well, but the MIDI stack is a little bit too small for that. We didn't really design it for that, but you can send out single byte messages. And this is a good example of how you could do it. But once again, you'd never do this. You wouldn't send a start message and then a stop message straight after it. And that's basically it. If you just wanted to send this page to the pedal and not worry about sending anything else, you can just press this button. You can also edit the MIDI stack on the pedal itself. And we went through that in the Convert MIDI video. So you can check that out. So that's basically it. Hope that's helpful. We'll be doing more and more videos. If you have any questions, just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you. All right, thanks. Bye.